Before I talk about my failure, we're going to go back to 1962.
We choose to go to the moon in this decade and do the other thing, not because they are easy, but because they are hard. Because that goal will serve to organize and measure the best of our energies and skills. Because that challenge is one that we're willing to accept, one we are unwilling to postpone, and one we intend to win, and the others too.
This was audacious, unrealistic, bold, and it was full of failure. Before we ever reached the moon, we burned, we broke, and we lost lives. Now, if we fast forward to SpaceX, his first few rockets exploded, one after the other. People laughed at him. But those explosions, they weren't wasted. Each one gave telemetry. Each one taught them something. And then they nailed it. A rocket that had been launched landed back on the launch pad. Upright. Something once thought impossible and likely thought to be magic if the NASA astronauts saw that in the 1960s. So what does this have to do with my rejected psychology paper from a big journal? Everything. I had an assignment in a class to use a secondary data set to write a publishable paper. I had what I thought was a compelling idea, and my professor, after I wrote it, encouraged me to publish. But when I submitted my paper, it went through the full process, but after review was rejected for issues outside of my control from the data set. It wasn't softly rejected, they thoroughly showed the issues with it, even though they did tell me it was well written. It was hard to read, and it felt like a failure. But then I realized this wasn't a failure. This was telemetry. And my paper was the only paper in the class to get rejected because I was the only one who submitted my paper for publication. And this had been the furthest I had ever gotten in the publication process for this high level of a journal. I went all the way through review. Before, I had been rejected, which means rejection before review. I went as far as I had ever been. This was Flight 9 of Starship, which completed its entire flight path, but then burned up in re-entry, was not able to land in the Indian Ocean, but got to where it needed to be.
Before breaking apart, Starship made it farther into space than ever before. Its two previous launches ended in explosions just minutes after takeoff.
I could have just done the assignment, passed it off. If I don't try to launch, we never try to submit it, never risk it, we'll never get telemetry. That's not even bringing the rocket to the pad for a test. I'd rather have a paper burn up in re-entry than never leave the ground. Because now I know how to build better. And now I'm launching a new study and a new paradigm. So the last thing I want to say is, bring your rocket to the pad. A lot of people aren't. Put it on the pad and launch it. It may explode on launch, or it may burn up in re-entry. Even if it doesn't land, at least you've started the mission.
It's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.